Hello! Today I'm going to be taking a look at these 3 boxes of Supervision watercolours. They're in the same set and they are High Grade Grey Watercolours. I have no idea what that means. I don't know anything about these paints. There is very little information out there on them. So we're going to find out together if these are any good. Let's get into it! So late last year I received a large box from Artex, and inside were these Supervision colours because Artex, Supervision and Paul Rubens are all kind of related to each other. I'd been looking at Supervision watercolours online for quite a long time now. A few other people have reviewed different sets by them. They have those layering ones and mica colours, but I had never seen the High Grade Grey watercolours from them before. I don't even know if these ones are even readily available. If they are, I will be linking them in the description below. But if I pick up one of the boxes and we'll just flip it over, this one is Charm of Song Dynasty. Looking at the colour palette up here, they look very muted and pastel-y, so I'm not too sure if they're going to be very opaque or transparent. I guess we're going to find out when we look at the tubes. The other boxes that I have are Sunset Travel, and that's the palette on the back, and we also have Chang'an Palace Music, interesting name, which also has this colour palette. They are going in chronological order, starting from 31 up to 40 here, 41 to 50 and 51 to 60. There are no names on them as far as I could tell because I've had a look at the tubes, so I'm just going to have to number them. I don't know what they are. I really like the boxes. I have to say they are really nicely packaged. There we go. Don't they look pretty, all pristine and unsqueezed? That's going to change very soon. But each box has 10 tubes and they are 8mm each. You can see it has the number here, and if there is a name, it is in Chinese there. I don't know what that says. There's also, thankfully, some information about them. So this is saying a Series A. It has multiple pigments in it. Yellow, red, blue and white, and its transparency, I would say semi-transparent or semi-opaque. Apparently it has a light fastness of 4 stars. I am guessing that 4 stars is high and 1 star would be low. Well, I've ruled out my chart, and here's something interesting. All of them had the same 4 pigments. It's so weird. There's a yellow, red, blue and a white, so I'm guessing they're combinations of different amounts of the colours. There are 2 in here that have a slightly different one. All of them, except for 2, have PB15, which is phthalo blue. There are 2 in this top layer. One has PG7 instead of the blue, so that is a phthalo green. And there's another one over here. Otherwise, all identical with pigment numbers. I'm assuming that's what it is. It's just different combinations of the same colours. Let's paint them out and find out. First up, I need to squeeze them all into half pans. Now, I'd originally tried to put the paints on a glass palette, but they just went everywhere as soon as I opened the lid, so I moved everything into half pans. Really glad I did that. I now have them in a metal tin, which I will show you later. I'm not sure what the binder is in these particular watercolours, but it had a bit of a milky look to it in the tubes where it had split out a bit. Your guess is as good as mine as to what the binder is. Maybe that's part of what makes them grey? It could also be the white pigment that they've put in that I will explain in a little while. So I just squeezed out one of the sets on camera and I'll show all of them at the end here. Well, that's all 3 sets swatched out, and they have some interesting colour palettes. This one seems quite muted, this one's got much brighter colours, and this one's kind of just, I'm not entirely sure what this one is. Finally, it's time to swatch them out, and what a peculiar colour palette these are. I ruled black lines on so you could see that the paints are somewhat opaque, although they did dry a lot more translucent. They run pretty well in water, and I felt like these were really high quality paints, which is excellent. According to Supervision, at least for the Sunset Travel set, grey tone colours, also known as Morandi colours, are a colour system extracted from the paintings of the famous Italian painter Giorgio Morandi. They do not have the intensity of standard colours, but ensure the transparency and basic brightness of the picture. Just like the first rays of the morning sun, giving you a comfortable and elegant feeling of balance. Well, I'll have to take them at their word for that, but they are really pretty colours, I will admit it, and they're all definitely quite muted. As for the pigment mix, PY3 is arrowlight yellow, usually called Hansa Yellow Light or sometimes lemon yellow. PR146, I think, is a synthetic Chinese-made naphthol red. PB15 is phthalo blue, and PW6 is titanium white. Then there were the two that had PG7, and that is phthalo green. Blue shade. So all of the colours in these three sets are made from these same pigments in differing quantities, which does create quite a varied colour palette. I'd be curious to try and mix those pigments on my own and see if I could replicate any of these. It doesn't look too difficult, and I think all of them except maybe the red are pretty common. You could probably just use any old naphthol red. Well, that's certainly an interesting combination of colours. Some of these are a little wet down here because I haven't waited for them to dry, but I am liking them so far. They are painting out very nicely. Yes, some of them are relatively opaque, but when they dry you could see that they are becoming a lot more transparent. It's just when you first paint them down that you get that white coming through, but as usual with white watercolour, it usually does tend to disappear into the paper after a while, and I think it's going to make a really nice full palette, and I will be putting them all in here once they dry and I can sort them out. I will have to fit some of them into here because this will take 26 of them and I have 30. They will sit in sideways like that, so no problem. I'll probably just stick them in with double-sided tape or something like that. So I think I'll do some paintings. I think I'm going to do a painting with each set and maybe some Chinese inspired paintings. I'll work it out. I'm gonna have to get my thinking cap on first though. Here's a fun fact. I lived in Shenyang, China for 10 months when I was in my mid-20s. Almost 20 years ago now. I visited numerous places while I was there, including Beijing, the touristy part of the Great Wall, in Badaling just outside of Beijing, the non-touristy parts including the end of the Great Wall, which is the Dragon Head, in the small town of Shanhaiguan. I got really close to North Korea, that's it in the background behind me, looking over from the town of Dandong. I even made it to Harbin for the Ice and Snow Sculpture Festival. I have never been so cold in my entire life, but it was absolutely amazing. And so my paintings are going to be inspired by China, and I'm doing one for each colour palette. Not necessarily following the names of it though, because I just couldn't think of anything. I worked on all three at the same time because I was letting them dry in between layers. I have to admit that I did struggle with these paintings somewhat, mostly because the colour palette was just so odd and I was using totally different colours to the reference images and I just kind of made it up. Probably the easiest one is the right-hand picture, which is the Summer Palace in Beijing, one of my absolute favourite places that I've visited. If you ever go to Beijing, you have to go to the Summer Palace, it is just fabulous. Also the Great Wall is something to be seen, that's for sure. I don't know how easy it would be to go there right now. I'm really glad I went when I did at a time when it was a lot easier and I was younger and less scared of everything. Painting the Great Wall was really difficult though. Mine is just a bit of a mess, and this particular colour palette was extremely muted, so I didn't quite manage to obtain the dark green rolling hills around the wall. But I worked with what I had and I came up with something in the end, even if it is a bit wobbly. I shall pretend that this is part of the wall that isn't maintained and is crumbling away. Next I have a guardian lion, which are pretty much everywhere throughout China. Very much a Buddhist symbol, I think. Possibly called Shishi in Chinese, but I have numerous photos of these. The colours I was using are so completely different to the image, and I really just made it up entirely. It was quite a struggle to get the details in, and I'm not too sure how successful this one was. But I do really like the colour palette. I love the muted pinks and purples. I think they're gorgeous. This third colour palette really suited the picture I had here of the Summer Palace, although they're not quite the right blues or reds, but it was close enough and it doesn't matter too much. I think of the three of them, this ended up being my favourite picture. They're kind of all in ugly stages at the moment, so just let the video play on and I will hopefully get them looking a bit better by the end. I'm glad I ended up ruling black borders around the pictures and adding in that white pen for some juicy highlights. That just really brought them to life and covered up a myriad of mistakes. And one last thing that I want to do is put the paints in order, colour order that is. So I combined all 3 sets together and I'm going to swatch them out here on a card that I can keep inside the paint palette. I think I did pretty well at putting them in an order, although some colours when they paint wet they look like one colour and then when they dry they kind of go totally different, so there are a couple that could possibly have been moved. I don't think it's that big of a deal and I feel like they make a lot more sense now. I've gone yellow, orange, pink, purple, blue, green, brown and black. There is no real true blue in this set. The closest is that turquoise, which looks like a phthalo turquoise. If anything, it would probably be a good idea to add the 3 primary colours separately, so the yellow, the red and blue in separate half pans, and then that would make a really full cohesive set. Possibly even a white if you want to just have them all in there, and phthalo green. I am quite liking how the palette turned out with all of the colours now in an order. It's definitely not a conventional set of colours by any means, but I'm really glad I was sent these. I like them a lot and I think they look good together. Nice one, Supervision. Well, that's me done for the day. What a strange colour palette it's turned out to be. Very muted colours. I do like it though. The paints themselves are of excellent quality and I really like them, so I hope to use this more in the future. I'm not entirely sure what else I'm going to paint with these, but I'll have a think about it. Let me know in the comments what you would paint with this colour palette because it's so weird, and I would love to hear your ideas because then it gives me ideas. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this was helpful. There doesn't seem to be too many videos out about these colours, so I figured that this would be something that would hopefully help some people. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and click that subscribe button. And if you liked today's video, you might also enjoy these 2 videos, which you can click on and watch as well. I hope you're all having a great day out there. I will see you all again really soon in my next video. Swatch you later. Bye!